Jaquio, welcome back to Bad 90s Music. So normally with these videos I start by looking up some basic information on the artist or the musician that I'm going to be talking about. Check the usual sources, Wikipedia, AllMusic, retro blog posts. See if they've done any interviews recently. And it's been a pleasant surprise to me that most of this stuff remains pretty well remembered. Even if the artists themselves have pretty much fallen off the face of the earth in terms of productivity, there are at least a few people out there keeping the memory alive. Well, with this episode, I think I've finally done it. I have selected an artist that absolutely nobody but me remembers. Okay, that's obviously an exaggeration, but at least when it comes to online presence, there is shockingly little information about Boyz of Paradise available. Wikipedia, no page. AllMusic, just the barest skeleton of an artist profile. They do have a Facebook page which appears to be somewhat official, but it's not exactly a wealth of biographical detail. As a result, this just might be the shortest video I ever do for this series. And I do apologize for that, because, at least in certain respects, Boyz of Paradise were pretty unique for their time. So who or what were Boyz of Paradise, besides the name of a shirtless beefcake pinup calendar if I've ever heard one? Well, on the surface at least, your typical 90s boy band, with one important difference. Every member, all 5 or 6 of them, I couldn't really find out for sure, were of Polynesian, Asian, or Pacific Island descent. See, 90s R&B was pretty well segregated for the most part. You had your black groups, your Boyz II Men's, Jodeci's, and your white groups, your 98 Degrees, Backstreet Boys. If you were lucky, you had a little bit of both in the same group, but Polynesians in the mainstream, completely unheard of. These dudes' ethnic backgrounds ran the gamut from Hawaiian, Filipino, and Samoan to Japanese and even Spanish. Their lineup consists of Ricky Bascones, Jeff Dela Cruz, Eric Cortez, Stephen Ventage, Charlie Hisatake, Jack Hisatake, and Lau Togefao. According to the Facebook page, its members hail from Carson, California, Las Vegas, Nevada, and the islands of Polynesia. And they were the first act signed to Dreforce Records, a label formed by A&R executive Andre Fisher, a former producer and performer with experience working alongside the likes of Curtis Mayfield, Shaka Khan, and Tony Bennett, who took them with him when he left MCA. In 1995, the group released the album B.O.P. on Rhythm Safari and Priority Records. And that's the end of the biographical portion of the video. That's all I could find. This band is ghosts. Seriously, if anybody knows anything about them, please let me know in the comments. This is their first single, a cover of the song Shining Star by the Manhattans, written by Leo Graham and Paul Richmond. The original version of the song was released in 1980, but the sound plants it firmly in the 70s, which makes it a pretty interesting choice for a debut single in 1995. A song that functions sort of as a straight-up nostalgic throwback. Side note, does anybody remember this? I feel like this song was everywhere for a little while, like you'd hear it in supermarkets and banks and stuff. If nothing else, I feel like I'm way more familiar with this version of the song than the original. Honestly, I kind of think their version blows the original away. Not that they radically reworked the sound or anything. I think they added just enough distinct elements to make it their own. The production is bolder, there's a slight uptick in the tempo to make it more of a dance song than a slow love ballad, and these guys' vocals are excessively gorgeous. Their singing is just downright joyous. If you take nothing else away from this video, make it this one thing: these cats could croon. I assume Ricky is the lead singer, and his falsetto is just all over this track. Actually, it might even be a little stronger than the song deserves. Okay, this is where the lack of information is going to start to annoy me. Whoever's playing that bass on this track is working overtime. Again, I don't know if it's someone in the band or just some session musician, but you hear that style playing all over the album. Somebody in there has got some serious funk chops. Hear that vibrato, slap bass, pull off. Arrgh! Will somebody tell me who's doing that? Seriously, if you told me that Prince was ghost playing on this album, I'd be like, wow, Prince sure did some random collaborations in the 90s.
Coming at you with the B.O.P. My boys Charlie, Jack, Jeff, Eric,
is the band's second single called The Runaround, which... Wait, is this why nobody remembers this band? Their first single was Shining Star, and there's a much more popular song by Earth, Wind & Fire by the same name. And then they follow that up with another song that has a very similar title to another song that was much more well known at the time. Okay, I have no way of proving this. But just in case, let that be a lesson to all you up-and-coming artists out there. Come up with original song titles. Back to Boyz of Paradise. This appears to be an original song, seeing as how they shout out to themselves in the lyrics here. But again, I have no way of proving this, since any actual songwriting credits are impossible to find online. And honestly, I do think they fare pretty well as songwriters here. It's a smoothed out sort of R&B jam with these nice little call and response hooks, and there's plenty of opportunities for them to flex that falsetto. Yeah, I like this. At the very least, it sets itself apart, both from the early 90s R&B that they were seeking to capitalize on, as well as the more slick and facile pop that the boy bands of the late 90s would be doing. They even kept up the funky-ass bass in there. Nothing else on BOP really stands out as much, unfortunately. Some of it's solid enough for the genre, but way too much of it is just indistinguishable from so much of the other R&B and pop of the 90s. The singing and the playing are pretty strong throughout, but it needed better material to really shine. And just to add to the confusion, in addition to covering a song with the same title as an Earth, Wind & Fire song, they did also cover an actual Earth, Wind & Fire song. This is basically a competent cover, but as good as the singing and the playing are, they're not going to supplant anything as legendary as Earth, Wind & Fire. And that was it as far as Boyz of Paradise's 90s output goes. I have no idea how long they stuck it out for, and I can only assume they were dropped from Dre Force and split up soon after. They definitely never released another album. Occasionally I'll run across some chatter on some forums or some comment section somewhere, talking about some kind of reunion in the works, or how some of the members carried on with a different lineup, but nothing from a wholly reputable source, which is a shame. I kind of dig this group's retro feel, and I definitely think there's a place for a group like this. Their album shows potential, but they probably just needed a little direction and management. And I think that with the right collaborator and enough support from the label, they could have been guided to much greater success. Okay, and at the very least, I do think they would have been a little more successful if they'd released their album just a few years later, when the whole boy band craze first reached fever pitch. Even as a novelty, I think it would have been a trip to just see, all these Asian and Polynesian dudes burning up the charts alongside the homogenous white boy lineups of NSYNC and Backstreet Boys. There was just one more thing I was able to find. Apparently, Ricky Bascones plays guitar and sings in a funk band called Jam. So if you're in Vegas, maybe you can catch an original Boy of Paradise in concert sometime. I'm the J Quio, and this was Bad 90s Music. I'll see you sometime in the future.